Hi, this is Julie Campbell for this month's Trendy Trios class with 2 peas in a bucket. This month we're going to be featuring the ombre trend. Ombre is defined as having colors or tones that shade into each other. This trend is really popular right now in fashion, and this season the ombre trend has really made its way into the scrapbooking market as well. I'm going to be demonstrating some of these new products and techniques by creating 3 different cards. For the first card, we're going to be using some paper from the Dear Lizzie Lucky Charm 6x6 pad. And this collection has several different options. There's a small ombre little note card there. And there's this really pretty pink variegated paper. And then there's also a couple of different mint green pieces of paper that have the ombre effect. But for this card, I'm going to be using this pink piece of paper. So I just need to trim this down to size. So now that my paper is trimmed, I'm looking for some embellishments. And this is some of the embellishments from the Amy Tangerine Yes Please collection. And these are some of the die cuts. And I'm just going to flip through these and just show you the variety that comes in this package. So there are lots of different themes and colors, and I really like the size of these because you can use one of these die cuts to really be a great focal point on a card. But for this card, we're going to combine a couple of these different die cuts. So I'm going to be using this Cityscapes rectangular die cut, and then also one of these word balloons that comes in this embellishment kit that has a little heart in the middle. And I like that this rectangle is 4 inches wide, which works perfectly for my card. This is a transparency sheet from Webster's Pages Allison Craft Design, and I'm going to adhere just the top of that. And I left it a little bit wide because I want to end up covering over that strip of adhesive. So if you make it a little bit wider than what you need, it can be covered with the die cut. So I'm just going to trim that excess off the side. And I like this transparency because you can still see the ombre effect through the transparency, and then the white in the chevron just adds a little lightness to the bottom of the card where the ombre already is getting to be a lighter shade. It just kind of adds even more texture to the card. Now this is a really simple card, but it doesn't really need to have a lot of embellishment because I think it's just kind of cute just how it is with the die cuts. So this is a stamp set from Hero Arts and Studio Calico, and I'm going to be pulling off a couple of these sentiments which say miss you and so much. I like this stamp set because it has a lot of different sentiments that can be used for a big variety of projects. I like trying to find products like this that you can use over and over again. So I'm just going to just kind of lay that word bubble where I want to place it. It's not quite adhered yet. And then I'm just laying down these stamps just to see how it's going to look when it's actually inked. Now that I like my placement, I'm going to go ahead and just ink those with some black ink. And if you're looking for a really nice black ink pad, I really recommend this black VersaFine ink pad from Sukaniko. I think that's how you say it. But I just have really good luck with it. It always produces a really nice crisp image. So I'm just using some foam adhesive on the back of this word balloon just to give the card a little bit more visual interest. So at this point, I'm just going to adhere the back of this panel and place it onto a card base. And I made the card base a little bit larger than this panel so that I have a white border around the edge. And like I said, it is a super simple design, but I like how the ombre effect makes it look like the light is coming from the cityscape and kind of going up into the night sky and getting darker as you go up. It just kind of draws the eye across the card. For our second card, I wanted to show you a really cool technique that you can use if you own a silhouette. So to begin with, I'm just resizing my paper to a letter size, and then I want to show the registration marks. And I'm going to do that because we're going to be making a printable. So I've just gone into my library, and these are all the different butterfly images that I've downloaded in the past. So I'm just pulling in a couple of different shapes. And these are quite large. We're going to resize those, but I'm just making a rectangle right now to mimic the size of a card. So I'm just going to make this an A2 size so that it kind of gives me a better visualization on how big or how small I want my butterfly die cuts to be. So as you can see, it definitely needs resize. So you can just drag a corner to make each of the images bigger or smaller. So I like that, but I want to go ahead and duplicate this butterfly down here. So I'm just using that quick selection button at the bottom and then making one that's a little bit smaller. So now I have my three shapes, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that rectangle. So if you click up on this gradient tool key at the top, it'll show you there are all kinds of different ways that you can fill your shape. So here are just some of the colors. So I'm going to select red, and as you can see, it already creates an ombre effect. If you go to the advanced settings, you can change the angle of where the actual light is coming from, and you can also change the specific colors by just going and moving along on the bar or in that color circle. I like the way that that looks, and now I'm going to recolor these other butterflies. So for this one I wanted a blue, and I'm just kind of looking back and forth to see which shade might work best. Once again, I'm just changing the angle just a bit. And then my third butterfly, I'm going to use a yellow gradient. So now basically you have created your own print and cut. So I'm just sliding these over on my paper, trying to decide where I want them to be placed. And then you can go ahead and send those to your printer. It will print the colored image and also the registration marks. And then once you have that, you'll place it back onto your cut blade, or I'm sorry, your silhouette cut mat, and then send that through your silhouette, and it will cut right along the edges of your butterflies and make perfect die cuts. So here's what my shapes look like once they've been removed from my cutting mat. And I also die cut a frame using this new pattern paper from Basic Gray's Mint Julep collection. And I used my sewing machine just to add a little bit of more design to the inside border. So this is my white card base that I've trimmed to match the size of my frame. So I'm just going to go ahead and adhere my butterflies in place. I'm just laying my frame over just to kind of visualize things and see where a good placement might be. I'm going to use some foam adhesive just to pop this blue butterfly up off of the page. I think using foam on die cuts just is a really quick and easy way to make some visual interest on your card or page. And I think I want to place this yellow butterfly actually on the frame itself. I'm just going to use my hot glue gun to make it just kind of quick and easy. And I'll place that on there. And I want the frame to really pop off the front of my card, so I'm going to use additional foam adhesive on the back of that. So just looking at everything, I thought that the front of the card needed a little bit more visual interest. It was a little just too stark white for me in places. So I'm just flipping through the basic gray mint julep 6x6 pad and finding a piece of paper that kind of brings all of these colors together. So I'm going to lift off my die cut and then place it over this pattern paper and then trim around the exterior of the circle. So I'm going to re-adhere back in place, and I think that just makes it look a little bit cuter. And now I can go ahead and place my frame over the die cuts. And I'm going to pull the wing of the butterfly out just to kind of pop it out as well. Okay, now we need a sentiment for the card. And these are also from the Mint Julep collection, and they are some adhesive backed blue alphas. And this color of blue is just one of my favorite colors right now. I really love it. So I'm going to make this a birthday card and spell out the word happy using those alphas. So I'm just kind of looking, making sure they will fit, and then I'll take the protective layer off the back and adhere those in place. So now that I have the word happy, I'm going to use a smaller alphabet, and these are just some alphabet stickers from Basic Gray in red, and spell out the word birthday. I'm using a needle just to help me get those little tiny accent pieces. And so now I have spelled out my sentiment. And these are some of the enamel dots that come in the Basics collection from Basic Gray. And they just happen to match perfectly. I didn't even plan that, so I was happy to be able to use one of these new products that I just got. And these larger enamel dots happen to fit perfectly inside of the alphabets here. So I'm just popping those in place, and I think that just adds some fun contrast and pulls the yellow down throughout my card as well. So I want my actual card base to match up to the notches that are in the card front. So I'm using a circle punch and just creating that curve by punching the edges that way. Okay, now that completes our card number 2. Our third and final card is more of an artsy card. I'm pulling out, this is my box that I use to spray all of my different mists in. It just keeps my desk nice and clean, and I'm placing a paper towel down as well because I'm going to be using different layers of spray. So these are just 3 different colors of Mr. Yui's mist. One is a nice red color, and then I have a yellow, and then you'll see in the middle I'm misting some orange mist. So this is a really quick way to manufacture your own ombre effect. So I don't really like to wait for a long period of time to let things dry, so I always use my heat tool to help dry my mist. Just make sure when you're using your heat tool, especially since I have a paper towel here, make sure that you don't overheat in one area too much, because then you'll end up with a fire and it just will not be good. So just take caution when you're using that. Another way to use mist to create an ombre effect is to actually paint them on. So I'm just getting a large brush wet and using those same 3 colors, and my brush was a little large. Normally I would just dip it right into the bottle, but I had to pour it because I selected a pretty large brush. But the large brush does help to apply it more easily. So I'm just adding color in a gradient as I go up. And then if you dip your paintbrush back into water and just kind of go between the different layers of colors, it just helps everything blend in really well. So you can just kind of keep playing around with it and adding more color, more water, until you get the ombre effect that you like. And this is just ordinary cardstock. It's not watercolor paper, and I was really happy with how it took to the colors. So once again, I'm just quickly drying everything with my heat tool. And I just wanted to show you the difference between using the mist with just the spray mist itself and then using a watercolor brush. And you can kind of tell that the texture is a little bit different between the two. This is a Studio Calico mask, and I'm just placing that over one of the ombre painted pieces of cardstock that I had earlier. And I'm using some white Mr. Yui's, and I'm just spraying over that chevron pattern. I'm just going to dry it just a little bit to try to set the colors so I don't smear them too badly. Just once again, just kind of be careful. You don't want to warp your mask or anything like that. Just kind of just be careful and just kind of do a quick dry. And as you can see, it really made a really neat pattern onto the cardstock. These are some wood veneer pieces from the new Hipster collection from Basic Gray. So I'm just pulling out a few different ones that I want to use on this card. I really like this pack because it has some really unique pieces in it, and I think it's just a lot of fun. I wanted this card to be more masculine, something that I could give my preteen son or any male actually, and I wanted the sentiment to read totally rad versus totally radical. So I just cut the end of that wood veneer off to create my own custom sentiment. This is the Gold Lame Mist from Heidi Swap, And if you've ever used this, you'll know it's just a really beautiful gold color. It doesn't really pick up as well on camera. It's not quite as pretty on camera as it is in person, but it is just really stunning. It's such a pretty color. And the wood veneer takes really well to mist as well. So now I'm going to use a dark navy Mr. Yui spray and just cover the Totally Rad sentiment because I really want it to pop off the page. So I've trimmed my ombre cardstock and I used some navy thread to create a border around the edge just to kind of pull that navy theme throughout. And then I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that onto a white card base. I wanted my sentiment to have an ombre effect as well, so I'm using a white ink pad and I'm just applying ink directly to the bottom of each of these misted die cuts. So when it's finished, it kind of has, it goes from dark navy to a lighter blue with the mixing of the white paint, or actually the white ink. So I'm just kind of looking at things, and I think this wood veneer would look better if it was backed with just some white cardstock. I think it would make it pop off the card a little bit better. So I'm adhering that on with some hot glue, and then I'm going to just trim it out along the edges. So now that I have my wood veneer all finished how I like it, I'm going to go ahead and adhere each of the pieces down using my glue gun. For the word rad, I was kind of looking at things and I decided I wanted it to pop up just a little bit. So I'm going to use some foam adhesive and then apply a few pieces onto the back so that it can kind of overlap onto the word totally. I thought it looked a little bit bare along the bottom still, so I'm pulling out this sticker sheet from the Basic Gray Hipster collection, and the arrow isn't pointing in the direction that I need it to, so I'm just going to flip it over, and because it is already adhesive backed, and flipping it over will create an adhesive front, it holds glitter really well. So I'm just applying some kind of chunky white glitter to the front, and then just tapping off the excess. I thought this added just a neat element for a teen card. So now that everything is covered here, I'm going to pull out my trusty glue gun and just adhere this sticker in place. So I like that better, but I want to create a sentiment that actually reads, "You are totally rad." So these are some rub-ons from the Amy Tangerine Yes Please collection, and I have parts of the word that I'm going to need, like here's the word you that you can see right here, but the rest of it I'm going to just kind of have to cut and paste different letters from different words to create the word are. I just like the mix of a handwritten font and then this font that's also in the wood veneer. It's kind of a fun combination. So as you can see, I'm doing letter by letter to get the next word rubbed on here. And I noticed when you use the white Mr. Yui's mist, and it could just be because my card front isn't 100% dry, but the rub-on doesn't like to apply very well over the white mist. So I'm just using a fine journaling pen and going over the areas that my rub-on kind of skipped. And this completes card number 3. I hope you've enjoyed seeing a variety of different ways that you can utilize the ombre trend in your projects. I'd love to see some of your own ombre projects if you'd upload those to the 2Ps gallery. All of the supplies and additional information on this project can be found at www.2psinAbucket.com. Thanks for watching.